The galaxy was vast, filled with countless stars and planets. Among them, Earth had always been just another speck in the endless void. But that changed when humanity made contact with an alien civilization known as the Zerithians. These aliens were far more advanced than humans, with technology so sophisticated it seemed like magic. They traveled between stars effortlessly, built cities among the clouds of gas giants, and communicated using languages beyond human understanding. For years, Earth had listened to the cosmos, hoping for a sign of life outside their planet. When they finally received a signal from the Zerithians, excitement rippled across the globe. Scientists, politicians, and ordinary people alike celebrated the discovery. Humanity believed this would be the beginning of a new era, an age where Earth could join the galactic community as equals. But the Zerithians did not see things the same way. Jamin sat in his small office at the Global Space Defense Initiative, GSDI headquarters, staring at the screen in front of him. He was a young astrophysicist, barely 30 years old, but already respected for his sharp mind and dedication. His dark hair was slightly messy, and his glasses rested low on his nose as he leaned closer to the monitor. On the screen was a live feed of interstellar communications, messages sent by various civilizations throughout the galaxy. Suddenly, something caught his attention. A broadcast from the Zerithians appeared, loud and clear. It wasn't meant for Earth specifically. It was a general transmission aimed at all nearby systems. The message was simple yet devastating. Earth is insignificant. Its inhabitants are weaklings who cling to primitive tools while we soar through the stars. Jamin felt his chest tighten. The words stung deeply, not just because they insulted him personally, but because they mocked everything humanity had worked so hard to achieve. For centuries, humans had dreamed of reaching the stars. They had built rockets, launched satellites, explored other planets, and even established colonies on the Moon and Mars. And now, after all that effort, they were being dismissed as irrelevant. He replayed the message several times, each word sinking further into his heart. The tone of the speaker was arrogant, dripping with superiority. Jamin clenched his fists under the desk. How dare they? Who were these Zerithians to judge humanity? As if sensing his frustration, a soft knock came from the door. Hyeji stepped inside without waiting for permission. She was Jamin's childhood friend and one of the brightest engineers at GSDI. Her long black hair was tied back neatly, and her intelligent eyes scanned the room before landing on him. "You heard it too?" she asked quietly. Jamin nodded, gesturing toward the screen. "They're broadcasting it everywhere, not just to us, but to everyone, like they want the whole galaxy to know how pathetic we are." Hyeji sighed and pulled up a chair beside him. "It's humiliating," she admitted. "But what can we do? We're decades, maybe centuries behind them technologically. Fighting back isn't an option, isn't it?" Jamin turned to face her, his expression fierce. "We've overcome challenges before. Look at history. Every time someone told us we couldn't do something, we proved them wrong. Why should this be any different?" Hyeji frowned. "Because this isn't about climbing a mountain or landing on the moon. This is about going toe-to-toe with beings who have mastered space travel and weapons we can't even imagine. If we act rashly, we'll only make things worse." Jamin didn't respond immediately. Instead, he stared at the screen again, replaying the message silently in his mind. Hyeji had a point. Rushing into conflict would be reckless, but doing nothing felt equally unbearable. There had to be a way to show the Zerithians that humanity wasn't as weak as they thought. A few days later, the Zerithian ambassador arrived on Earth. His name was Vorthok, and he looked every bit as imposing as his reputation suggested. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, with shimmering silver skin and piercing blue eyes, Vorthok exuded authority. He wore intricate armor adorned with glowing symbols, and his voice carried a deep, resonant quality that commanded attention. Vorthok's visit was billed as a diplomatic meeting, but it quickly became clear that diplomacy wasn't his priority. During a press conference held in New York City, he addressed a crowd of reporters and dignitaries. His speech began cordially enough, praising humanity for its curiosity and determination. But then, without warning, his tone shifted. "While your species has shown admirable persistence," Vorthok said, his lips curling into what might have been a smile, It remains painfully obvious that you lack the sophistication required to contribute meaningfully to galactic affairs. Your so-called achievements pale in comparison to those of older, wiser races. You are children playing with fire, unaware of the dangers around you. Gasps rippled through the audience. Some people shifted uncomfortably in their seats, while others exchanged angry glances. Cameras flashed endlessly, capturing every moment of the spectacle. Vorthak continued, unfazed by the growing tension. "Consider yourselves fortunate," he concluded. "Had you attempted to venture beyond your solar system prematurely, you would have met disaster. As it stands, perhaps there is still hope for your kind, if you learn humility and seek guidance from those who know better." When the speech ended, silence hung heavy in the air. No one dared to clap or cheer. Instead, the crowd dispersed slowly, weighed down by shame and anger. Outside the building, protests erupted almost instantly. Thousands of people gathered in the streets, chanting slogans and holding signs that read, "We are not weak," and "Earth will rise." Back at GSDI headquarters, Jae-min watched footage of the protests on TV. Despite the chaos, he couldn't help but feel a flicker of pride. Humanity wasn't backing down, not completely. There was still fight left in them. All they needed was direction, a plan to channel their energy into something meaningful. That evening, Jae-min met with Hyeji in a secluded corner of the facility. They sat together in a dimly lit conference room, surrounded by papers and blueprints scattered across the table. Neither spoke for a while, each lost in thought. Finally, Jae-min broke the silence. "What if we focus on what makes us unique? What if we use Earth itself as our weapon?" Hyeji raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "I mean nature," Jae-min explained. "Think about it. Our planet has evolved some of the most incredible organisms in existence. Sharks, octopuses, fungi, they've adapted to survive in ways no machine ever could. If we combine biology with technology, we might stand a chance against the Zerithians." Hyeji considered this for a moment. Then, slowly, a smile spread across her face. "You're talking about bioengineering, using Earth's ecosystems as inspiration for new weapons and defenses." "Exactly," Jae-min said, leaning forward excitedly. "Imagine drones modeled after bees, capable of swarming enemy ships, or armor made from materials inspired by chameleon skin, able to blend into any environment. Even bacteria could play a role. Self-replicating nanobots designed to repair damage automatically." "It's ambitious," Hyeji admitted. "But it's also brilliant. Let me run some simulations, and we'll see how feasible it is." Over the next few weeks, Jae-min and Hyeji assembled a team of scientists and engineers to work on the project. They called it Gaia Strike, named after the ancient Greek goddess of Earth. Each member brought a unique skill set to the table, from biochemistry to robotics. Together, they brainstormed ideas and tested prototypes, driven by a shared sense of purpose. Among the team was Soo Bin, a biochemist whose expertise lay in studying adaptive organisms. She spent hours analyzing DNA sequences, searching for traits that could be replicated artificially. Next to her was Dong Hyun, a robotics engineer fascinated by animal behavior. He designed mechanical limbs capable of mimicking the agility of cats and the strength of gorillas. Despite the progress, doubts lingered in the background. Could humanity really compete with the Zerithians? Were they wasting their time chasing impossible dreams? These questions haunted Jae-min late at night, when the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on his shoulders. But whenever doubt crept in, he reminded himself of Vorthak's words. The insult burned brighter than ever, fueling his determination. If the Zerithians wanted to laugh at Earth, let them laugh now. Because soon, humanity would strike back, and when they did, the galaxy would never forget. The days following Vorthak's humiliating speech were tense. News of the Zerithian ambassador's remarks spread across Earth like wildfire, igniting a mix of emotions: anger, shame, and defiance. While protests continued in cities worldwide, Jae-min and his team at the Global Space Defense Initiative, GSDI, worked tirelessly behind closed doors. They knew that protests alone wouldn't change anything. Humanity needed action, not just words. Project Gaia Strike became their sole focus. The idea of combining Earth's natural wonders with advanced technology wasn't just ambitious. It was revolutionary, but it also came with risks. If they failed, humanity would be left defenseless against the Zerithians. If they succeeded, however, they might stand a chance. Jae-min spent most of his time poring over research papers and data, searching for inspiration. He often stayed late into the night, drinking cup after cup of bitter coffee while scribbling notes on scraps of paper. His mind raced with possibilities. Could the strength of spider silk be replicated to create unbreakable armor? Could the adaptability of fungi help heal damaged spacecraft mid-battle? Every organism on Earth seemed to hold untapped potential, waiting to be harnessed. Hyeji, meanwhile, coordinated the team's efforts. She assigned tasks based on each member's expertise, ensuring everyone contributed effectively. Her leadership kept the project moving forward, even when challenges arose. When prototypes failed or experiments didn't yield results, she reminded the team that failure was part of the process. "We're building something no one has ever tried before," she told them during one particularly frustrating meeting. "If it were easy, someone else would have done it already." One evening, as the team gathered in the lab to review progress, Subin presented her latest findings. A petite woman with sharp features and an intense gaze, Subin had been studying extremophiles, organisms capable of surviving in harsh environments like volcanic vents and freezing tundras. She believed these creatures held the key to creating resilient materials for space combat. "I've isolated a protein found in certain bacteria," Subin explained, pointing to a microscope slide under a bright light. "This protein allows the bacteria to repair themselves almost instantly, even in extreme conditions. If we can replicate this process artificially, we could design self-healing armor for our ships and suits." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed her words. Self-healing armor sounded like science fiction, yet here was proof that nature had already solved the problem. Hyeji nodded approvingly. "Great work, Subin. Let's start testing this immediately." Next, Dong-hyun demonstrated his latest creation, a robotic arm modeled after the limbs of an octopus. Unlike traditional mechanical arms, which were rigid and limited in movement, Dong-hyun's invention featured flexible joints and suction cups capable of gripping nearly any surface. He attached the arm to a small drone and activated it, watching, as the machine climbed effortlessly up a vertical wall. "This could be used for reconnaissance missions," Dong-hyun said proudly. "Imagine sending drones into enemy territory without needing landing zones or flat surfaces. They'll move like shadows, unseen and unstoppable." Jae-min watched the demonstration with growing excitement. Each breakthrough brought them closer to their goal. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that something vital was missing. Their designs were impressive, but they lacked the raw power needed to match the Zerithians' superior weapons. There had to be another piece of the puzzle, one that tied everything together. His thoughts turned to Antarctica. For weeks now, strange signals had been detected emanating from beneath the frozen continent. At first, scientists dismissed them as natural phenomena, echoes bouncing off ice layers or seismic activity deep underground. But Jae-min suspected otherwise. The signals were too regular, too deliberate, to be random. What if they weren't natural at all? What if they originated from something artificial? He decided to investigate. With Hyeji's approval, Jae-min assembled a small expedition team. Joining him were Subin, whose knowledge of biology might prove useful, and Min Seok, a skilled pilot and survival expert. Min Seok was tall and wiry, with sun-weathered skin and a calm demeanor that masked his quick reflexes. Though quiet by nature, he had a reputation for getting things done, no matter how difficult the task. The journey to Antarctica was grueling. The team endured biting winds, treacherous terrain, and endless stretches of white nothingness. Their destination was a remote area near the South Pole, where the mysterious signals appeared strongest. As they set up camp, Jae-min couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and trepidation. What awaited them beneath the ice? Using specialized drilling equipment, the team began excavating the site. Progress was slow, hindered by thick layers of permafrost and unpredictable weather. Days turned into weeks, and morale started to wane. Some members questioned whether they were wasting their time chasing ghosts, but Jae-min refused to give up. He trusted his instincts, convinced that whatever lay buried below held answers humanity desperately needed. Finally, after nearly a month of relentless effort, they struck something solid. It wasn't rock or ice. It was smooth, metallic, and unlike anything they'd seen before. Carefully, they widened the hole, revealing a crystalline structure embedded in the ground. The artifact glowed faintly, pulsating with an otherworldly energy. "It's beautiful," Subin whispered, her voice filled with wonder. Jamin reached out cautiously, brushing away loose debris. The surface felt cool to the touch, yet alive somehow, as though it responded to his presence. He glanced at Min-seok, who stood nearby with a wary expression. "What do you think?" Jamin asked. Min-seok shrugged. "Looks like alien tech to me. Question is, does it belong to the Zerithians?" "No," Jamin replied firmly. "This isn't theirs. It's older. Much older." Back at GSDI headquarters, news of the discovery sent shockwaves through the organization. Scientists flocked to analyze the artifact, running tests and simulations around the clock. Early results suggested it contained vast amounts of information, data encoded in patterns humans couldn't fully decipher. But one thing was clear. Whoever created the artifact possessed knowledge far beyond current human understanding. Hyeji wasted no time integrating the artifact's secrets into Project Gaia Strike. With its help, the team made rapid advancements. Biomechanical drones inspired by bees and ants emerged, capable of working together in swarms to overwhelm larger targets. Armor infused with the self-healing protein developed by Subin proved nearly indestructible. Even Dong-hyun's octopus-inspired robots received upgrades, gaining enhanced agility and stealth capabilities. But as progress accelerated, so did tensions within the team. Long hours and mounting pressure took their toll. Arguments broke out over priorities, resources, and strategies. Jamin found himself mediating disputes more often than focusing on the bigger picture. Despite these challenges, he remained determined to keep everyone united. They were Earth's best hope, and failure wasn't an option. Unbeknownst to them, their activities hadn't gone unnoticed. Across the galaxy, the Zerithians monitored Earth closely. Though they still viewed humanity as insignificant, rumors of unusual developments reached their leaders. Reports of strange signals from Antarctica piqued their interest. Could the primitive humans have stumbled upon something valuable? Something that belonged to an ancient civilization long forgotten? A group of Zerithian spies descended upon Earth, disguised as ordinary citizens. Their mission was simple: infiltrate GSDI headquarters, steal the artifact, and eliminate anyone who posed a threat. They moved quietly, blending seamlessly into human society. To the unsuspecting eye, they were harmless tourists or curious researchers. But beneath their calm exteriors lay ruthless warriors, ready to strike at a moment's notice. As the spies closed in, Jamin sensed danger looming. Late one night, while reviewing data in his office, he noticed something odd, a flicker of movement outside his window. At first, he thought it was just his imagination. Then, a shadow passed by again, darker and more deliberate this time. Heart-pounding, Jamin grabbed a flashlight and stepped into the hallway. The building was eerily quiet, devoid of the usual hum of activity. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed, illuminating corridors in harsh bursts. Someone, or something, had breached security. Jamin sprinted toward the lab where the artifact was stored, praying he wasn't too late. When he arrived, chaos reigned. Armed intruders clad in black uniforms exchanged fire with GSDI guards. Sparks flew as bullets ricocheted off metal walls. Amidst the commotion, Jamin spotted one of the spies reaching for the artifact. Without hesitation, he lunged forward, tackling the intruder to the ground. The two men struggled fiercely, rolling across the floor as punches flew. Jamin fought with desperation, knowing the fate of humanity rested in his hands. Finally, with a well-placed kick, he managed to disarm the spy and snatch the artifact away. Breathing heavily, he scrambled to his feet and bolted toward the exit, clutching the glowing crystal tightly. Behind him, shouts erupted as reinforcements poured into the lab. The spies realized they'd lost their prize and retreated hastily, disappearing into the night. Jamin collapsed against a wall once he reached safety, adrenaline coursing through his veins. The artifact gleamed softly under the dim lights of the secure lab, its crystalline surface pulsating with an eerie glow. It was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, a relic from a forgotten age, holding secrets that could change the course of history. For Jamin and his team at the Global Space Defense Initiative, GSDI, it represented both hope and danger. Hope because it might hold the key to defeating the Zerithians. Danger because others, both human and alien, would stop at nothing to claim it. After the failed infiltration attempt by the Zerithian spies, security around the artifact had been tightened to the extreme. Armed guards patrolled the facility day and night, while surveillance cameras monitored every corner. Access to the lab was restricted to only a handful of trusted individuals, including Jae-min, Hae-ji, Subin, and Dong-hyun. Even then, biometric scans and passcodes were required to enter. The artifact wasn't just a discovery, it was now a fortress unto itself. Jae-min spent hours each day studying the crystal, trying to unlock its mysteries. He worked alongside Subin, whose expertise in biology proved invaluable when analyzing the faint energy patterns emitted by the artifact. Together, they theorized that the structure contained some form of encoded information, possibly instructions or blueprints left behind by an ancient civilization. If decoded, this knowledge could leapfrog humanity's technological capabilities, decades or even centuries into the future. But decoding the artifact wasn't easy. Its language, if it could be called that, was completely alien. Patterns of light shifted across its surface like ripples on water, defying logic and comprehension. At times, Jae-min felt as though he were staring into a starry sky, watching. Constellations rearranged themselves endlessly. Other times, the artifact seemed almost alive, responding subtly to his presence. When he touched it, the glow intensified slightly, as if acknowledging him. Yeji watched Jae-min closely during these sessions, concern etched on her face. She admired his determination, but worried about the toll it was taking on him. His eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep, and his hands trembled slightly whenever he handled the artifact. Still, she said nothing. This was their best chance to fight back against the Zerithians, and she knew Jae-min wouldn't rest until they succeeded. One evening, after another long day of fruitless analysis, Jae-min decided to try something different. Instead of focusing solely on the artifact's physical properties, he turned to Earth's own ecosystems for inspiration. What if the key to understanding the artifact lay not in advanced technology, but in nature? After all, many organisms communicated through vibrations, electrical signals, or chemical exchanges. Perhaps the artifact operated on similar principles. He shared his idea with Subin, who immediately grasped its potential. "What if we treat the artifact like a living organism?" she suggested. "We've already seen how it reacts to touch and proximity. Maybe we can stimulate it using natural frequencies." Excited by the possibility, the two began experimenting. They connected sensors to the artifact and exposed it to various stimuli. Sound waves, electromagnetic pulses, even samples of bioelectricity harvested from electric eels. At first, there was no response, but then, during one test involving low-frequency vibrations mimicking whale songs, the artifact flared brightly, sending out a burst of energy that nearly knocked them off their feet. "What just happened?" Subin gasped, steadying herself against the table. "I think we triggered something," Jae-min replied, his voice trembling with excitement. "It's reacting to Earth's natural rhythms." Encouraged by the breakthrough, they repeated the experiment, refining their approach. Each time, the artifact responded more strongly, releasing streams of data in the form of glowing symbols that hovered briefly in the air before fading. Though the symbols remained incomprehensible, they confirmed one thing: the artifact was communicating. Word of the discovery spread quickly among the team. Hae-ji joined them in the lab, bringing Dong-hyun along. Together, they brainstormed ways to capture and interpret the data being emitted. Dong-hyun proposed building a specialized interface, a kind of translator, that could convert the artifact's output into readable formats. With everyone working together, progress accelerated rapidly. As days turned into weeks, fragments of the artifact's message began to take shape. Images formed in the holographic projections above the crystal, diagrams of machines, schematics, of weapons, and maps of celestial bodies. Some designs were recognizable, resembling technologies humanity already possessed. Others were utterly alien, defying explanation. One image stood out above all, a massive structure floating in space, surrounded by swirling clouds of energy. "That looks like a weapon," Hyeji murmured, pointing to the projection. "A superweapon." Jaemin nodded grimly. "If we're right, whoever built this artifact also created something powerful enough to destroy entire planets. That's why the Zerithians want it so badly." "But what does it mean for us?" Subin asked, her voice tinged with unease. "Are we supposed to build this thing, use it against them?" "No," Jaemin said firmly. "We don't need to replicate their mistakes. We'll use what we learn to create our own solutions, ones that reflect Earth's values and strengths." Though inspired by the artifact's revelations, the team couldn't ignore the growing threat outside their walls. The Zerithians hadn't given up. Reports of increased activity near Earth's borders reached GSDI headquarters daily. Patrol ships lingered ominously in orbit, scanning for weaknesses. Spies continued to infiltrate human society, gathering intelligence and sabotaging efforts wherever possible. Jaemin knew time was running out. Every breakthrough brought them closer to victory, but also closer to discovery. If the Zerithians learned about the artifact's true power, they would stop at nothing to seize it. Humanity's window of opportunity was closing fast. To buy more time, Hyeji implemented a bold strategy. Using decoy signals and fake transmissions, she created the illusion that Project Gaia Strike was faltering. False reports of failed experiments and internal disputes were leaked to Zerithian informants, convincing them that humanity posed no real threat. Meanwhile, the actual project continued in secret, shielded by layers of deception. The plan worked, for a while. But the Zerithians weren't fools. Their leaders suspected a trap and dispatched a reconnaissance team to investigate further. Disguised as scientists, the spies infiltrated Antarctica once again, targeting the excavation site where the artifact had been found. They hoped to uncover additional clues, or perhaps even a second artifact, that might give them the upper hand. Back at the lab, Jaemin sensed trouble brewing. His instincts told him the Zerithians were planning something big. Late one night, unable to shake the feeling, he reviewed satellite footage of the Antarctic region. What he saw chilled him to the bone. Several unidentified vessels descending. Toward the ice fields, their shapes unmistakably alien. "They're here," Jaemin whispered, his heart pounding. He alerted Hyeji immediately, and within minutes, emergency protocols were activated. A small strike force, led by Min Seok, was dispatched to intercept the invaders. Their mission was clear: protect the excavation site at all costs. Min Seok moved swiftly, piloting a sleek fighter craft designed specifically for cold weather operations. The ship's hull shimmered with heat-resistant coatings, allowing it to blend seamlessly into the icy landscape. Behind him, a squad of elite soldiers followed, armed with experimental weapons developed under Project Gaia Strike. These included plasma rifles powered by bioengineered cells and drones equipped with adaptive camouflage. The battle unfolded under the harsh glare of polar sunlight, stark against the endless white expanse. Min Seok's team engaged the Zerithian spies in a fierce firefight, exchanging blasts of energy that lit up the sky like fireworks. Despite being outnumbered, the humans fought with precision and coordination, leveraging their knowledge of the terrain to gain the advantage. From his command post miles away, Jaemin monitored the skirmish anxiously. Every explosion echoed in his ears, every casualty weighed heavily on his conscience. Yet he refused to look away. This was war, not just for Earth, but for the future of humanity itself. Eventually, the tide turned in favor of the humans. Outmaneuvered and outgunned, the Zerithian spies retreated, leaving behind damaged ships and scattered equipment. Min Seok radioed back triumphantly, confirming the site was secure. Relief washed over Jaemin, though it was short-lived. He knew this victory was temporary. The Zerithians would return, stronger and angrier than before. When Min Seok returned to base, covered in frost and exhaustion, Jaemin greeted him with gratitude. "You saved us," he said simply. "Thank you." Min Seok shook his head. "Don't thank me yet. This isn't over, not by a long shot." Despite the lingering tension, morale among the team improved. The successful defense of the excavation site proved that humanity could stand its ground, even against overwhelming odds. More importantly, it reinforced their belief in the power of unity and innovation. Together, they were stronger than any single individual. Together, they could defy the impossible. As work on Project Gaia Strike resumed, Jae-min reflected on the journey so far. From the humiliation of Vorthak's speech to the discovery of the artifact, every step had brought them closer to realizing their potential. The Zerithians had grown impatient. Their spies reported that humanity was weak, divided, and unworthy of further attention. Yet rumors of strange advancements, whispers of bioengineered weapons and glowing artifacts, had reached their leaders. These reports were dismissed as exaggerations, the desperate ramblings of a primitive species trying to inflate its own importance. To the Zerithians, Earth remained an insignificant speck in the galaxy, barely worth the effort of conquest. But patience was not a virtue they valued. When intelligence suggested that one of humanity's lunar colonies might house secrets of Project Gaia Strike, the Zerithian High Command saw an opportunity. A probing attack would serve two purposes. It would test Earth's defenses and send a clear message that resistance was futile. The decision was made swiftly, and a fleet of sleek, angular ships descended upon the moon like vultures circling prey. Jae-min stood in the control room of GSDI headquarters, staring at the live feed from the lunar colony. His heart sank as he watched the Zerithian vessels approach. The colony, named Nova Luna, was home to thousands of scientists, engineers, and families who had dedicated their lives to humanity's expansion into space. It was also a testing ground for some of the prototypes developed under Project Gaia Strike. If the Zerithians breached its defenses, countless lives and years of hard work would be lost. "Prepare for evacuation," Hyeji ordered sharply, her voice cutting through the tension in the room. "Get everyone to the shelters." Jae-min hesitated. "We can't just abandon the colony. We've invested too much there. And we'll lose everything if we don't protect what matters. Most, the people," Hyeji shot back. Her tone softened slightly. "Trust me, Jae-min. This isn't the time to fight. Not yet." Reluctantly, Jae-min nodded and relayed the order to the colony's leadership. Alarms blared across Nova Luna as residents scrambled toward underground bunkers. Engineers worked frantically to disable sensitive equipment, ensuring no critical data fell into enemy hands. Meanwhile, a small contingent of defenders prepared to hold the line, buying precious time for the evacuation. Among them was Min Seok, piloting a prototype fighter craft equipped with biomechanical enhancements inspired by sharks. Its streamlined design allowed it to slice through space with unmatched speed, while self-repairing armor ensured it could withstand heavy damage. Beside him flew Yun-ju, a strategist whose tactical brilliance had earned her a place on the front lines. Her ship bristled with experimental weapons, including plasma cannons powered by adaptive energy cells. As the Zerithian fleet entered firing range, Min Seok led the charge. "Stay close," he instructed over the comms. "Let's make them regret coming here." The first wave of enemy fire lit up the darkness, streaks of green and blue energy slicing through the void. Min Seok maneuvered his ship with practiced skill, dodging blasts while returning fire. His shots struck true, disabling several Zerithian fighters in quick succession. Behind him, Yun-ju coordinated the defense, directing drones and automated turrets to target vulnerabilities in the enemy formation. Despite their efforts, the Zerithians pressed forward relentlessly. Their ships were larger, more durable, and armed with devastating weaponry. One by one, human defenders fell, their ships exploding in bursts of light. Panic began to creep into the voices of those still fighting. "We're outnumbered!" someone shouted. "They're breaking through!" Min Seok gritted his teeth. He knew they couldn't win this battle outright, but they didn't have to. Their goal was survival, not victory. Activating a special function on his ship, he unleashed a swarm of drone bees designed to overwhelm larger targets. The tiny machines buzzed around the Zerithian flagship, clinging to its hull and releasing corrosive enzymes that ate away at its armor. The tactic bought enough time for the last civilians to reach safety. Yun-ju seized the opportunity to launch a counterattack. She deployed fungal-based shields around key areas of the colony, absorbing incoming fire and creating barriers the Zerithians struggled to penetrate. Her calm demeanor masked the urgency of the situation, but her mind raced with calculations. Every second counted. Back on Earth, Jamin watched the battle unfold helplessly. The images transmitted from Nova Luna were chaotic and fragmented, but one thing was clear. Humanity was losing. Thousands had already perished, their dreams reduced to ash. Anger burned within him, hot and unrelenting. How could they let this happen? How could they stand by while innocents died? Hiei placed a hand on his shoulder. "We'll get them back," she said firmly. "This isn't the end." Her words offered little comfort. Jamin turned away, unable to bear the sight of destruction any longer. Instead, he focused on the artifact sitting silently in the lab. Its glow seemed dimmer now, as though mourning the loss alongside them. He clenched his fists. Humanity needed more than hope. They needed action. Meanwhile, the tide of the battle began to shift. Though heavily damaged, Minsok and Yunju refused to give up. They rallied the remaining defenders, launching a desperate assault on the Zorithian flagship. Using every trick at their disposal, from adaptive camouflage to EMP bursts, they managed to cripple the vessel's engines. Realizing they were vulnerable, the Zorithian commander ordered a retreat, leaving behind smoldering wreckage and broken bodies. When the dust settled, silence hung heavy over Nova Luna. The colony was in ruins, its surface scarred by craters and debris. Survivors emerged cautiously from the bunkers, their faces pale with shock and grief. Among them was Min Seok, limping slightly as he stepped out of his battered ship. Yunju joined him moments later, her expression grim but resolute. "We did it," she said quietly. "Against all odds, we held them off." Min Seok nodded, though his eyes reflected the weight of what they had endured. "For now," he replied, "but they'll be back, and next time, we need to be ready." News of the battle spread quickly across Earth. Images of the devastated colony filled screens worldwide, sparking outrage and sorrow. Yet amidst the despair, a spark of defiance ignited. People took to the streets, chanting slogans and demanding justice. Politicians issued statements condemning the Zorithian attack, vowing retaliation. For the first time, humanity united under a single banner: resistance. At GSDI headquarters, Jamin addressed the team. His voice was steady but carried an edge of determination. "Today, we showed the Zorithians that we won't go down without a fight. But this is only the beginning. We need to push harder, faster. We need to turn Project Gaia Strike into something they can't ignore." Hiei nodded in agreement. "We'll integrate everything we've learned from the artifact. Every prototype, every weapon, we'll refine them until they're unstoppable." Work resumed with renewed vigor. Subin focused on enhancing the self-healing properties of their materials, ensuring future ships and suits could endure prolonged combat. Dong-Hyun fine-tuned the octopus-inspired robots, adding new features that allowed them to infiltrate enemy systems undetected. Even Jamin threw himself into the effort, analyzing data from the battle to identify weaknesses in Zorithian technology. Days turned into weeks, and progress accelerated. Bioengineered drones capable of mimicking animal behavior became standard. Issue for reconnaissance missions. Armor infused with adaptive fungi protected soldiers from extreme temperatures and radiation. Plasma rifles powered by bioelectricity proved devastatingly effective against Zorithian shields. But perhaps the most significant breakthrough came from the artifact itself. After months of study, Jamin and Subin unlocked a crucial piece of its message: a formula for generating sustainable energy using Earth's natural resources. This discovery revolutionized their approach to warfare, allowing them to power entire fleets without relying on finite materials. It was a game-changer, one that gave humanity a fighting chance. As preparations continued, word of the victory at Nova Luna reached other corners of the galaxy. Oppressed civilizations, long cowed by Zorithian dominance, began to take notice. Whispers of rebellion spread among star systems, fueled by tales of Earth's unexpected resilience. Some races reached out cautiously, offering support or intelligence. Others remained silent, unwilling to risk angering their overlords. But the seeds of dissent had been planted. The Zorithians, however, were far from defeated. Though humiliated by their failure at Nova Luna, they viewed the incident as a minor setback rather than a threat. Their leaders doubled down on their campaign against Earth, vowing to crush humanity once and for all. Reinforcements poured into nearby sectors, preparing for a full-scale invasion. Vorthok, the arrogant ambassador who had mocked humanity months earlier, returned to Earth with a warning. Standing before a council of global leaders, he sneered, "Your little victory means nothing. You've delayed the inevitable, nothing more. When we come for you again, there will be no mercy." His words sent chills through the room, but Jae-min met his gaze unflinchingly. "Then bring your best," he said coldly, "because next time we'll be ready." As Vorthok departed, leaving behind a trail of disdain, Jae-min felt a surge of resolve. Humanity had proven it could stand against the Zerithians, even if only briefly. Now they needed to prove they could win. In the days that followed, plans were laid for humanity's next move. No longer content to defend, they decided to strike back. The plan was risky, almost suicidal, but humanity had no choice. After the devastating attack on Nova Luna, it became clear that waiting for the Zerithians to strike again would only lead to more loss. Earth needed to take the fight to them, to show the galaxy that humanity wasn't just a victim, but a force to be reckoned with. Operation Shadow Strike was born out of desperation and determination. Its goal was simple yet audacious: infiltrate a heavily fortified Zerithian outpost located near the edge of their territory and cripple its operations. This outpost served as a command hub for their military fleet, coordinating attacks across multiple star systems. If humanity could disable it, they would deal a significant blow to the Zerithian war machine and send a message loud enough for the entire galaxy to hear. Min Seok and Eunju led the mission, commanding a small team of elite operatives handpicked for their skills and bravery. Each member brought something unique to the table: expertise in stealth, combat, or technology. They were equipped with the latest advancements from Project Gaia Strike, including cloaking devices, bioengineered weapons, and adaptive armor. Every piece of gear had been refined and tested countless times to ensure it could withstand the challenges ahead. Before departure, Min Seok gathered the team for one final briefing. Standing in front of a holographic map of the target location, he outlined the plan step by step. "We'll approach under cloak," he explained, his voice calm but firm. "Once inside, we split into two groups. Group 1 will sabotage the main power core. Group 2 will disable communications and destroy key databanks. Speed is critical. We can't afford to linger," Eunju added. "Expect heavy resistance. The Zerithians won't let us walk in and out easily. Stick to the plan, stay sharp, and trust your instincts." The room fell silent as everyone processed the weight of the task ahead. These men and women weren't just soldiers. They were pioneers representing all of humanity. Failure wasn't an option. Hours later, the strike team launched from Earth aboard sleek, shark-inspired fighter ships. Their hulls shimmered faintly with heat-resistant coatings designed to blend seamlessly into space. Cloaked in invisibility, the ships slipped past Zerithian patrols undetected, weaving through asteroid fields and dense clouds of cosmic debris. Min Seok piloted the lead vessel, his hands steady on the controls despite the tension gripping his chest. As they approached the outpost, the structure came into view, a massive angular fortress floating amidst a sea of stars. Its surface bristled, with weapons turrets and sensor arrays scanning for any sign of intrusion. The team held their breath as they entered the danger zone, knowing a single mistake could expose them. "Cloak holding steady," Eunju reported softly over the comms. "Proceeding to entry point." The designated entry point was a maintenance hatch located on the outpost's lower levels. Using specialized tools, the team breached the hatch silently, slipping inside without triggering alarms. Once inside, they moved cautiously through dimly lit corridors, their footsteps muffled by adaptive soles on their boots. Holographic displays flickered along the walls, showing streams of alien text and schematics. Splitting into their assigned groups, the operatives began their tasks. Group 1, led by Min Seok, made their way toward the power core. Along the way, they encountered several Zerithian guards patrolling the halls. Thanks to their cloaking devices, the team avoided detection, slipping past the enemies like ghosts. When confrontation was unavoidable, they relied on quick reflexes and precision strikes, neutralizing threats quietly before moving on. Meanwhile, Group 2, commanded by Yunju, targeted the communications center. Here, rows of consoles hummed, with activity manned by Zerithian technicians oblivious to the danger lurking nearby. Yunju signaled her team to spread out, planting explosives at strategic points. As they worked, she kept a close eye on the clock. Time was running out. Tension mounted as both groups neared completion of their objectives. Suddenly, an alarm blared throughout the outpost, shattering the silence. Someone, or something, had discovered their presence. Red lights flashed, illuminating the corridors as Zerithian reinforcements rushed to intercept the intruders. "We've been compromised," Yunju shouted over the comms. "Fall back to extraction point!" Chaos erupted as the team fought their way through swarms of enemies. Plasma blasts ricocheted off walls, filling the air with sparks and smoke. Min-Seok led Group 1 in a desperate sprint toward the power core, dodging fire while activating their explosives. Behind him, teammates laid down cover fire, sacrificing themselves to ensure the mission's success. At the same time, Yunju detonated the charges planted in the communications center. Explosions rocked the outpost, sending shockwaves rippling through its metallic frame. Databanks disintegrated in flashes of light, severing the outpost's connection to the rest of the Zerithian network. For a brief moment, the team allowed themselves a glimmer of hope. They had done what they came to do. But escaping alive was another matter entirely. Retreating through the labyrinthine corridors, the team regrouped near the maintenance hatch, where they had entered. Casualties had been high, and those who remained were battered and bleeding. Still, they pressed on, driven by sheer willpower. Min-Seok took point, guiding them towards safety while fending off relentless waves of Zerithian soldiers. Just as they reached the exit, a massive explosion tore through the outpost's upper levels. The blast knocked several team members off their feet, throwing debris everywhere. Through the chaos, Min-Seok spotted Yunju struggling to rise, clutching her side. Without hesitation, he rushed to her aid, pulling her to her feet and helping her limp toward the hatch. "Don't stop now," he urged, his voice strained. "We're almost there." Finally, they reached their ships. Climbing aboard, they activated the engines and shot into space, pursued by angry Zerithian fighters. The chase was intense, with enemy fire lighting up the darkness around them. But thanks to their superior speed and agility, the human ships managed to evade capture, disappearing into the void. As they emerged from cloak and re-established contact with Earth, relief washed over the survivors. They had succeeded against all odds, delivering a crushing blow to the Zerithians. Back at GSDI headquarters, Jaemin watched the transmission with pride swelling in his chest. Humanity had struck back and struck hard. News of the victory spread quickly, igniting hope not just on Earth but across the galaxy. Oppressed civilizations, inspired by humanity's courage, began to rise up against their Zerithian overlords. Rebellions flared in distant star systems, challenging the Empire's dominance. For the first time in centuries, the balance of power shifted ever so slightly. But not everyone welcomed this change. Some races, wary of humanity's sudden rise, viewed them as a threat rather than allies. Whispers of betrayal and conspiracy circulated among the stars, sowing seeds of distrust. Jaemin and his team soon realized that uniting the galaxy wouldn't be easy. It would require diplomacy as much as warfare. Amidst these challenges, preparations continued for humanity's next move. With the artifact's secrets fueling their innovations, Project Gaia Strike pushed boundaries further than ever before. New weapons, defenses, and strategies emerged daily, strengthening Earth's resolve. Yet even as they grew stronger, Jaemin couldn't shake the feeling that greater trials lay ahead. Vorthak, the Zerithian ambassador, returned once more, his arrogance replaced by barely concealed rage. Confronting Earth's leaders, he snarled, "You think this changes anything? You are insects daring to challenge gods. Your rebellion will end in ashes." Jaemin stepped forward, meeting Vorthak's gaze with unwavering defiance. "Then come and see for yourself," he replied. "Because we're not afraid anymore." As Vorthak stormed away, Jaemin turned to Hyeji, who stood beside him. "This isn't over," he said quietly. "Not by a long shot." Hyeji nodded, her expression grim but resolute. "No, it's not. But we'll keep fighting. For Earth. For everyone." And so humanity stood ready, prepared to face whatever came next. The battle for survival had become a war for freedom, a war they intended to win.